Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are very happy and pleased to have with us Miss Ashwarya Sharan, All India Rank 93, UPSC Civil Services Examination 2019. She has not only cleared the exam with flying colors, but was also among the top 20 finalists of Femina Miss India 2016. D. From Kartavya, the Civil Services Society of Kirorimal College, I extend my heartiest congratulations to you and also thank you taking out time from your busy schedule and giving us this valuable time.
Thank you so much, Nikita, and a big thank you to the entire team of Kartavya. I'm very delighted to be here today and interact with all of you. I'm really looking forward to this session.
All right, Dee. So let's start the session now. So being college student ourselves, we face many common problems while preparing for the exam. So first of all, we would like to know a little about your academic background and how your time in college was. And how did you manage time between your extracurricular activities and studies so well? And were you part of any college societies? We all want to know about this.
So, you've asked me three questions. So, the first one is how my college time was. The second is, about my co-curriculars and what all activities I used to take part in. And thirdly, how I balanced. Now, all of them are very interconnected questions. When I came into my college, I realized that being a science student in my 11th and 12th, I had very little time to do anything else. But in college, I gained a lot of freedom. I was doing economics honors from Sriram College of Commerce. So there was a lot of free time that I had with myself. Especially coming from a science background, I think many students can relate to it when they come into a humanities stream all of a sudden in college. They realize that they have so much of free time. So then comes your second question, how I utilized it. So I took part in a lot of co-curricular activities. I used to be in the dance society of my college. Then there is a society called Enactus. I was a part of that. And most importantly, the debating society. Because I realized that college is the time which you can utilize to have an overall well-built personality. I think this is one period of your life where you can explore as much as possible, where you can go out and see what all zones are there which are out of your comfort area and explore these areas. Only then you can build a well-rounded personality. And for somebody who was as studious as me, I think college was a big breather because all these activities that I took part in, somewhere they've helped me throughout my life. Even now, when I'm entering these civil services, I think the kind of confidence that I gained because of the activities, the co-curriculars that I used to take part in, have helped me, be it in my UPSC interview or even today when I'm speaking with all of you here today. So I think that you must utilize the college time to participate, to go out and venture into areas where you were earlier hesitant. So this was my co-curricular schedule, as you can say, debating, dance, any activity which earlier I could not do because of my science stream. So I used to take part in all of them. I was not good in any, to be very specific. I'm not a master of any, but a jack of all. So I used to take part in as many activities as possible, and whatever came my way, I took those opportunities. College was also the time when I started doing modeling, as many of you may know. And this was again for me, it was a hobby which I developed, and I realized that I have a lot of potential in this. So I utilized this time to pursue that career option as well for some time, till the time I was in my college. And now coming to the third part, I think this is the most important question that you've asked me, how to balance your co-curriculars with your studies. So I think it is a continuum. You should not see co-curriculars and studies as two separate entities and compartmentalize them in such a way. I think when you take part in a lot of activities, when you take part in debating, the kind of knowledge, the kind of confidence that you gain from there helps you in your studies as well as further ahead in your career as well. So, talking about the balance, I think for me it has always been the middle path. So you study for a certain amount of time with full concentration, But at the same time, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So you have to take out time for the things that you really love and the things that would really help you ahead in life. Because only bookish knowledge is not going to take you forward. What is going to help you develop a well-rounded personality is these certain activities that you take part in. And I think your society Kartavya is very much involved in all these co-curricular activities. So I would encourage more and more students to come and take part in these.
So thank you so much, Dee. That was really very insightful. Now I would like to invite my fellow core team members to put forward their doubts regarding preparation of this examination. So first, I would like to ask Ritika to come and put forward her doubts.
Hi
Hello,
Ritika, how
Dee.
are you?
I'm fine. Dee, I wanted to ask that as you had cleared CAT, the Common MBA entrance exam, as well prior to clearing UPSC. So, was there any separate preparation strategy for CAT, and how did you manage to clear two very different exams like CAT and UPSC in such a small time period?
Thank you for your question, Ritika. To be very honest, CAT was something that happened all of a sudden. I had no ambition of getting into IIM or any of such reputed institutes. It was something which I decided spontaneously, and I hardly prepared for CAT. When I started preparation, there were only 2 months left for the exam. So I just gave it all. I thought that let's try this exam. It's considered to be one of the toughest exams in the country. And it was more or less like a family challenge. So nothing serious went into my CAT preparation. Luckily, I got a decent percentile. I got into IIM Indore, but that was never my aim. For me, UPSC was always something which I wanted to do, and ultimately, my entire focus was on UPSC. So, talking about my CAT preparation, definitely CAT is a very different exam from UPSC. UPSC is more of subjective, and the kind of subjects that are there, they're very different. CAT is more of analytical and mathematical in nature. So I think somebody who has seriously prepared for CAT would be able to tell you better in terms of the preparation part of it. But overall, I think the two exams are completely different. Apart from the common link that in your prelims exam, you do have a CSAT paper. And there, I think my CAT preparation really helped me because I didn't have to prepare separately for it. But other things said and done, I think the two exams are very different. Coming to UPSC, I think UPSC is one exam where you seriously need to prepare for 1 year. The preparation is much more detailed, it is much more elongated. The time period of the exam is very long. So, in terms of these differences, the CAT exam and UPSC are very different. UPSC is a different ball game altogether because you have to study continuously and consistently for about a year, and then the exam itself takes 1 year. So, minimum 2 years you have to give to your UPSC preparation to be able to crack it in the first attempt. So in that sense, I think the two exams are very different. But very honestly, as I said, my CAT exam was something which happened all of a sudden. I did not really take it that seriously. But yes, the two exams are very different.
Okay, thank you, Dee.
All right. I hope Ritika, you are clear with your question now. Next, I would like to invite Soumya putting forward her doubts.
Hello, Dee.
Hi, Soumya.
So my question is regarding the current affairs. Can you please tell us that how did you prepare your current affair notes and what was your sources for the same?
That's a very, very relevant question, especially for all those people who are preparing for UPSC. I think current affairs forms the chunk of the syllabus of UPSC. It's the most important thing. More so because most of the subjects right now, be it GS2, GS3, they are very dynamic in nature. So current affairs becomes very important. Now, talking about how to make notes for current affairs, the first thing that I would like to clarify is that a lot of people think that buying, pre-fixed notebooks or magazines is going to help them. So this thing should be very clear that making your own notes from the newspaper or any other source is paramount. That is non-negotiable. You can supplement it with any other magazine or monthly current affairs that you get. but your own notes should form the crux of your overall preparation strategy. So making your own notes is one of the most important things. A lot of people skip it thinking that there is so much of material available in the market. But I think nothing can substitute your own handwritten notes. Now, coming to how to prepare notes, firstly, you need to know what not to study. There is a lot of political news that comes in the newspaper. Some politician has done something other is happening. You need to avoid all of that and stick to the syllabus. So be very specific as to what all articles you're reading or what all material you're reading for your note making. To give an example, to make notes for one day, it should not exceed half a page or maximum 1 page. I've seen people making really, really bulky notes, which they're not able to study later on. So that doesn't help. You have to be very specific in terms of your note making and not make them too bulky. Thirdly, the sources for the notes. I think firstly, you have to follow a particular newspaper. You can follow the Hindu or the Indian Express, whichever one you feel suits your personality or you find more comfortable reading. Secondly, I would suggest that you do your current affairs note making at the most, I would say, weakest point of your overall preparation schedule. So if you're more active in the morning, avoid making current affairs notes in the morning itself, because that is the time when you can utilize for heavier subjects like history, polity, or any other difficult subject. Leave the current affairs for the time when you're at your weakest point. So for me, at night, I knew that I lose the track of concentration or any other thing. So mostly I left my note making for the night because it's a no-brain job. You just have to write notes from a given source. So the timing is very crucial. Also, if you start making notes at night, there are a lot of websites like Insight Current Affairs, Vision IAS Current Affairs, GK Today. There are so many different websites from which they have already compiled that day's notes. So it is more easier for you to see those compilations and make your own notes from there. So what I used to do was I used to sit at night after dinner and open these different websites, look at the compilation, and make my own notes from there. Then I used to open the newspaper. I used to follow the Hindu. So I used to open the newspaper and see if there is anything left out. So if the compilations have covered mostly everything and there are 1 or 2 state government schemes which are left out, I only used to write that. So in this entire process, I saved a lot of time, and my current affairs notes didn't take more than 40 to 50 minutes to be made. And then the rest of the time, I used to revise them on the same day. So I think making current affairs notes in a precise manner, in a timely manner, not taking 3-4 hours reading the newspaper and making the notes, I think that's a lot of waste of time. So you see the compilations, you make your notes, and then check the newspaper if there is anything left out. So, and after this entire note-making process is over, you have to revise those notes again and again. Because what happens is that we have so many notes, so much of bulky material, that by the time prelim comes, we are not able to revise them. So I think continuous revision is equally important. So this was my so-called strategy for current affairs.
Okay, thanks a lot, Didi.
Thank you, Soumya. Current affairs is something which is actually we find very hard as an aspirant, but with your guidance, I think it will be a bit easier now. Next, I would like to call Tushar to ask his doubt.
Hello, Dee.
Hi Tushar, how are you doing?
I'm good, Dee. Dee, I would like to know about the note-making strategy for both NCRTs and standard books like the Ramesh Singh for economics. So, what was your note-making strategy, Dee?
When we talk about the note-making strategy, Tushar, the first thing we have to realize is that not every book requires a note-making strategy. There are certain books for which you don't need to prepare notes because the entire book becomes important. So for example, if there's a book like Lakshmikant, every word of it is important. So there's no point making notes for a book for which you'll end up writing the entire book itself. So a better strategy for such material is to revise them over and over again. So books like Lakshmikant, Spectrum for history, geography NCRT books. These are the books which you have to revise and again and again. And I feel that note making in such a material for which entire book is important is not needed. Now coming to your optional subject, like you talked about economics, their note making becomes paramount because the time between your prelims and mains is hardly 2 to 3 months. So in that, if you have precise notes already made, you can really sail through. So for example, my optional subject was economics. So economics, note making is the most important thing. Now, how do you make notes? The thumb rule is that if the book is very bulky, for example, economics has H.A. Lahuja or Uma Kapila, if the book is very bulky, 20 pages, you have to compile them into 1 page. So that is the ratio you have to keep in mind. You know, your notes should not be as bulky as the book itself. They have to be very concise and stick to the syllabus. Read the syllabus. I think stick the syllabus in front of you so that you're able to see it every day and realize that you are on the right track. Every word in the syllabus is a keyword. So make your notes accordingly. What I used to do was that I took out past year papers for economics, last 20 to 30 years paper. And I realized that especially for paper 2, which is mostly Indian economic history and general concepts of Indian economy, the questions are very repetitive in nature. So for example, there'll be a question on agriculture, on industry, on manufacturing. So for such questions, write the question and write your notes in 200 to 250 words, just the way you're going to make or write in your mains exam. So that when you appear for the exam, you just have to take out the same material and put it on the paper. So don't make bulky notes, make notes according to the kind of questions that come. So in the exam, you're only asked to write 150 to 200 words. So make sure that for each subject, each topic, each keyword, your notes are not more than this word limit. So 150 to 200 words for a particular topic, more than enough. And try to make a lot of graphs, a lot of pie charts, a lot of bar diagrams, so that you're able to revise them again and again and produce them in the same way in the paper itself. So I think your notes should be a reflection of what you're going to write in your mains exam. And if there's anything that you need explanation for, you can always look up to it in the book itself. So notes should be as per you're going to write in the exam. That's it. Very concise, nothing bulky at all.
Okay, Dee, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Next question is of Rashmi, but she's not with us, so I am putting forward her question. Her question is regarding the GS4 paper, Ethics, Integrity, and Aptitude. She wanted to ask you which books did you refer and what was your preparation strategy regarding that paper?
Thank you so much for the question. I think ethics is one paper which really helped me in getting the rank that I got. Because ethics, essay were the papers that really took my mark sheet forward. And if I'm there in the top 100, it's only because of these two papers and the interview. So when we talk about ethics, a lot of people tend to ignore it, that ethics to aa hi jayega. You know, all of us are very ethical people. Kya padhna hai isme? And plus, when we talk about ethics, the questions are so general in nature that we tend to think that we'll be able to sail through it. But I think if you give some serious thought to it, if you just have to take out half an hour extra for your ethics paper, and it can really make a lot of difference. So what I followed was, again, I think I was one of those aspirants who ignored it for quite some time. And it's only after my prelims that I actually started taking ethics seriously. So nothing much is needed. I would suggest that you follow a combined approach for your essay, ethics, and the society part of your GS1 paper, because these topics are very interrelated. So when we talk about ethics, the book I followed was of Arihant Publications, GS4 book. Apart from that, the past year papers. And other than that, a lot of mock tests, so that you're able to understand what is the requirement for the exam that you are supposed to write, what the examiner actually wants. So half an hour every day I used to give to my ethics paper. I made my own notes from the book. And then for every keyword that was there in the syllabus, So if the word is integrity, compassion, empathy. So I used to write the definitions of these terms in my own words, and then think of examples from my personal life that I can put forward in the paper. So write those examples, make a separate register for ethics, write those personal examples so that your paper stands out from the rest of the crowd. Those bookish answers are, everybody is going to write them. So what will really make the difference between you getting 130 and somebody getting 150 is those personalized experiences that you may write in the paper. So write your personal experiences. It will not come naturally. You will have to think for some time. So dedicate half an hour for your ethics paper, not more than that. Only half an hour is needed. So dedicate this time, especially for ethics, and maybe 15-20 minutes for your essay. It can be a combined strategy. So this is what I used to follow. Nothing bookish is needed, but definitely buy any basic book and make your notes, your own notes, write motivational stories, examples in whatever register that you're writing your notes in. And these are going to help you in writing in the mains. So I think that was my strategy, which I followed.
Thank you so much, Dee. I'm sure it will not only help Rashmi, but all of us in preparing for the GS4 paper. Next, I want to call Leeladhar to put forward his question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, congratulations for all your achievements. You truly are an inspiration for all of us. So my question is not related to UPSC directly. So we see that in all these beauty pageant competitions, how gracefully and spontaneously the participant answers all those questions. We always get the opportunity to speak in front of the public, but we usually stammer or by nervousness and stage fear, we always ruin that opportunity. So how do we inculcate such amount of confidence?
Thank you so much for your question, Neeladhar. I must say your name is very lovely. Coming to your question, I think when we talk about public speaking, the first thing that we have to realize is that good orators, good public speakers are not born. It's not something that you inherit. It is something that you develop over a course of time. So this very notion that, okay, हमसे नहीं हो रहा है तो हमसे कभी नहीं होगा, you have to, remove all those fears. The second thing is self-confidence is one of the most important qualities that will help you. It's not only limited to beauty pageants or any public speaking platform, but I think any service or any profession that you want to enter in. So when I'm speaking to you, or I'm speaking to my colleagues, or I'm speaking on the stage, self-confidence is the most important quality which is needed anywhere. Thirdly, when we talk about, how to improve our speaking skills, you talked about stammering, you talked about, nervousness. These are things which everybody faces. I was never a good speaker. In my school, I used to be the head girl, but every time I used to go on the stage, literally my ears were burning because of nervousness. So this is something which you develop over a course of time. And how do you develop is that you participate in as many activities as possible. The more you go on stage, the more that fear will subside. And let me tell you, nervousness is something which comes naturally every time you'll go on stage or every time you have to speak. If I'm speaking to you today, I was a little excited and nervous before coming here, definitely. It's not that, I've given so many interviews so that emotion has gone away completely. It will remain there. But what will happen is that you learn to control these emotions. And this will happen only when you participate and you get out of your comfort zone. So never be afraid of taking part in activities which you otherwise feel scared of. And another point that I would like to say is that the best way to improve your communication skills, your speaking skills, is to practice in front of the mirror. Now, it sounds very stupid, and if you imagine somebody doing that, you'll actually laugh at them. But I think this is one of the best things to actually practice your public speaking. So before you have to speak anywhere, you practice your gestures, you practice your body language, see how you're looking when you're talking, and also work on your diction. Read the newspapers aloud every day. These are very little things, but they make a lot of difference. If you just read the newspaper standing in front of the mirror, you will realize that your public speaking skills have actually improved maybe 10 times over a period of time. So I think participating more, working on your diction by reading the newspaper aloud, and lastly, practicing in front of the mirror. These are the 3 beginner tips that I would like to give to anyone who wants to improve their public speaking skills. And the last point that I would like to say is never be afraid. If you stammer, it's all right. As long as you have the confidence that whatever I am, at least I have the courage to go and speak. You know, a lot of people, they make fun of others, but they themselves do not have the courage to actually go on stage and do the same thing. So realize that the very fact of you going on stage and speaking, you know, it's commendable on your part. So be proud of yourself, be self-confident, and this will reflect on your face and people would see it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dee. This will definitely enhance our communication skills and will boost up our confidence level. Dee, next, I would like to ask you a question. What suggestion would you like to give to those aspirants who are preparing for the interview stage?
When we talk about the interview is it specific to the UPSC interview or any interview that you have to face?
Yes, Dee.
UPSC interview.
Yeah.
So UPSC interview, first thing we have to realize is that it's a personality test. It is not a Viva. There are a lot of services for which Viva is required, but for UPSC specifically, they are not testing your knowledge. They are only seeing whether the particular candidate who is entering into the room is good enough, is capable enough to become an officer. So I think for these, certain qualities are needed, which unfortunately you cannot develop in 1 or 2 months. These are things that you have to start working upon right from the beginning, as early as possible. So when we talk about qualities of empathy, compassion, self-confidence, integrity, these are things which you cannot learn in 1 month. You have to start developing them, make them a part of your personality right from the beginning. So that is the first point. Secondly, when we talk about specifically the strategy for, when you're preparing for the interview stage, you have to fill your detailed application form before you appear for the interview. When we fill this form, we have to be very conscious as to not overstate our qualities. When they ask you, what are your interests and hobbies? Do not start filling anything and everything that you feel you have participated in under the earth. So you have to realize that you have to be very specific, because any word that you write in your detailed application form, they can ask you questions based on that. So for example, if I have written basketball under my hobby, playing basketball, they can ask me anything, right from the dimensions of the basketball court to the measurement of the ring, or what all players have been there in the basketball game, anything. So be very specific, write 1 or 2 hobbies when you're filling the form, when that stage is reached. Now, when we talk about actual going there and giving the interview, again, the qualities which I told Leeladhar, self-confidence is paramount. It's not a test of your knowledge, because your prelims and mains has already tested the knowledge part. They are only looking for the fact that how confident you are, even if you don't know the answer. So that becomes very important. So you don't have to be, if you're not able to answer a particular question, you don't have to be scared about it. Just move on. The coolness and calmness that you show on your face, the more you show it, the more marks you're going to get. So try to show that you do not crack under pressure. If I give my personal example, in my interview board, there was a lady panel member, and the question I was asked was that which sari is that lady member wearing? And obviously, as a college pass out, I didn't know anything about the textile materials and which sari ma'am was wearing. And plus, she was sitting at a distant. So she was distant to me, and I could not figure out which sari she was wearing. So I just said that, sir, unfortunately, I'm not able to guess which sari it is, but I must say it's a beautiful sari. So I think, so I didn't know the answer, but the way you handle a particular question becomes very important. So your confidence is what is going to take you forward in the UPSC interview. Apart from that, prepare well on your optional subject. So my optional was economics. So obviously, I was asked a lot of questions about economics. That time, US President Donald Trump also visited India on the same day. So mostly my questions were related to that, then national education policy. So current affairs, your optional subject, the detailed application form that you fill, your interests and hobbies, which are mentioned in those forms, your overall background. If somebody is from a particular state, say I belong to Rajasthan, so I should be expecting questions based on Rajasthan. So everything about that state, uska area, population, the occupational, demographic dividend, everything. So I should be aware of that. So these are the kind of questions that you expect. But as I said, it's a personality test. So there will be certain questions that you don't know the answer, but at the same time, it's only about how you handle them. So you don't have to panic. You just have to stay cool and calm and confident. And these are the qualities that they actually look for.
Thank you so much, Dee. And again, I'm going to ask the last question of this session regarding how was your training period at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, and what do you look forward after completing your training?
Thank you so much for the question, Nikita. And I think the question is very valid because I've just come back from my training. But I would say that the foundation course at Labasna, it was the best experience of my life. If there's one good thing that has happened in 2020, despite the pandemic and everything that we have faced, lockdown, it was this 2.5 months that I spent in Labasna. It's a wonderful place. But more than the place, I think the people who come, they are coming after fighting so many battles. Everybody has their own journey of UPSC. So much of hard work has gone into reaching that place. So I got to learn so much from my friends there, my colleagues there. And I think these experiences are the things that I'm actually going to take forward in my life. The kind of learnings that I've got from there. So be it my colleagues, be it the staff there, the teachers, everyone was so warm and cordial. Apart from that, if you talk about the overall schedule, it is definitely very hectic. All that glitter is not gold. When people see the pictures of Labasna, they think it's all a big party, but it's not that case. The schedule is very hectic. We have sessions back to back, but I think since everybody is doing the same thing and we're on the same page, we are in the same boat, so we tend to enjoy that journey itself. And despite the pandemic this time, we did a lot of activities online. So I think this again shows the spirit of the batch to fight the COVID and find out innovative ways to mingle and to get to know each other. So we had a lot of online contests, online dance competition, online chess competition, so many things. So I think this virtual medium is something which, the potential of the virtual medium is something which I learned in Labasna, that what all can you actually do online. So I think the Labasna experience is something which is one of the most precious memories in my life.
Thank you so much, Dee. I guess someone has a question regarding Vinayak Bhaiya. Please tell your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am, and congratulations for securing such a good rank. Ma'am, my question is this. If someone is starting their preparation from November onwards, from October, November onwards, and he or she has 6 to 7, 8 months, and he has completed his coaching and everything, so how should he move forward? Should he start answer writing practice from the very beginning, or wait for his syllabus to get complete?
That's a very, very valid question, Vinayak. Thank you so much. I think a lot of aspirants have this doubt in their mind as to when to start answer writing. I also 1 year ago I had the same doubt कि कब शुरू करें आंसर राइटिंग, पूरा सिलेबस हो जाए, कुछ कंटेंट आता हो तब शुरू करें या फिर पहले से ही, because we think that कुछ आता ही नहीं है तो लिखेंगे क्या. But now when I look back, I think the earlier you start, the better it is. And I'm saying it from experience. had I given 1 or 2 more mocks, I think और अच्छी rank आ सकती थी. So from that experience, I'm saying, try, if you have completed your coaching, that means certain amount of knowledge is already there in your head. So जितना जल्दी आप mock test के लिए sign up करें, for subjects, there are certain subjects like your optional subject. Technically, you should try and make the notes as early as possible for your optional and start giving mock tests. Because the more tests you take, the more improvement is there in your answers. Now, when we talk about the timeline, अभी जैसे अगर November, December है, and if you have 6-7 months, I think the time is already very restricted. तो आप जितना जल्दी शुरू करेंगे उतना बेटर रहेगा. There are very good coaching institutes who take a lot of good mock tests. Vision IAS is one of them. I think their mock test quality is very good. So जितना जल्दी आप sign up करें उतना better है. And उससे ये भी होगा that the kind of feedback that they give, you will be able to improvise your answers and customize them accordingly. For example, my handwriting was very slow, and I started my answer writing practice in January 2019, and the mains was in September. So again, I had very little time. तो उस वे में अगर आप देखें तो मुझे लगता है कि when I started taking the mock test, only then I realized that my handwriting is so slow that I'm actually finishing my papers in 3 hours and 40 minutes. So despite knowing everything, I was not able to produce it on the paper. So it's not only about the knowledge gain part of it, it's also about क्या आप लिख पाएंगे, because examiner doesn't know what's in your head. He or she only knows what you write in the paper. तो जितना जल्दी आप आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, योर स्पीड विल इम्प्रूव, योर कंटेंट स्ट्रक्चर, presentation will improve. I think these skills are equally important. So I would suggest that if you are thinking about कब शुरू करें, as early as possible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, one more question. I think कि सबके लिए question important है, because when we take coaching classes or when we start making notes, we already make notes of all the subjects, and then we start reading the basic books. So at the end of the day, we have basic books and our notes and the current affairs to get completed. So should we again make a concise notes of all of these, or should we go topic wise and then do things from these 2 or 3 different sources, because we have to keep our study consolidated?
Vinayak, I just need one clarification. When you talk about basic books, are you talking about NCERTs?
Ma'am, NCERTs plus the basic books, like the Lakshmikant, the Sanjeev Verma, these books.
Okay. So one thumb rule, Vinayak, which you have to follow is that for one subject, you should only have one source. So if there is polity, you will only study Lakshmikant or whichever notes that you trust. If it's your coaching material, then study that coaching material. Just cross-check with the other book कि कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं है कि उस book में कुछ extra information थी which is missing in my notes. If there is something like that, just add 1 or 2 lines on the side of whatever source that you're following. So if you have 3 books for polity, you have Lakshmikant, you have your coaching material, and you have current affairs, the strategy that I would suggest is that keep Lakshmikant as your basic book, which you will revise over and over again. If there is some extra information in your coaching material, write that on the side note of Lakshmikant itself. And current affairs is something which you do separately. तो current affairs की revision आप अलग अलग करते रहेंगे because वो update होते रहते हैं. But for static portion, the thumb rule is to only have one book for one subject. Similarly goes for history, similarly goes for geography. Because what happens is 3-4 source हम लेके रखते हैं, and by the time exam comes, there is no time to revise anything. तो I'm not suggesting कि आप हर चीज के खुद के notes बनाओ. For example, a book like Lakshmikant, you don't have to make notes of it because every word of Lakshmikant is important. So you will end up writing the entire book. There's no point of that. Keep revising the same book. कुछ extra material आपको मिलता है, sticky notes से उसी में side में आप stick कर लो that extra information, add 1 or 2 lines, but keep only one book for your revision. The lesser your material, the more you will be able to revise. And जो आप revise करते हैं वही आप paper में produce कर पाएंगे.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and wish you a very happy journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Vinayak.
Thank you so much, Vinayak Bhaiya. We would be taking one last question because of time limit. Nikhil Bhaiya, please ask your question.
First of all, congratulations, ma'am, for getting into the Indian Foreign Service. Now, I would like to ask two questions. My first question is, how did you prepare for geography of GS paper one, basically both prelims and mains, and governance section of GS paper two?
Okay. These are very precise questions, and I'm very happy because the question is so specific that the answer will always be specific then. So thank you for the question. And then talking about the first question, geography. I did not compartmentalize prelims and mains separately. I followed a prelims come mains strategy. So when we talk about geography, you have to realize that start with seeing the past year papers for prelims or mains. If you see the trend, the amount of static questions that come in geography have actually reduced. It's more of dynamic and current affairs based related questions, map based related questions. So map exercises become very important. So when I started preparing, I saw these questions, saw the trend, and started with the basic and the only book that I followed, that was NCERT 10th, 11th, 12th. Especially 11th, 12th, not even 10th. So 11th, 12th NCERT, I used to revise them over and over again. All the basic concepts get covered in that. Apart from that, if I have to understand a particular topic, say Southern Oscillation or El Nino, La Nino, for these, you can follow Mrunal videos, or any other YouTube video to understand. I think Mrunal videos explain it quite in detail. So that was the explanation part of it. Other than that, buy a good atlas, Orient Black Swan, or any other atlas which you feel is good enough, and try and practice map-based related questions. The kind of questions like, if you have to travel from Rajasthan to Tamil Nadu in the shortest distance, how many states will you cover? These kind of questions, they are very often repeated in the exam. And other than this, the more mock tests that you give for geography, the more beneficial it will be it for prelims or be it for mains. So when you take the mock test, especially for prelims, you will realize that there is so much of material in the answers of those tests. Don't think about the numerical marks that you're getting. Even if you perform poorly, it doesn't matter. What is important is that you're getting extra content from those questions. So if you practice a mock test, revise the answers of that mock test the same very day. And if there's any extra information in those answers, write in your NCERT or any other side note that you may have. So this way your actual knowledge will increase without overburdening your material collection. You don't have to read bulky books. You only have to practice more tests to be able to gather that knowledge. And for mains, answer writing is the key. I think the more maps that you make for geography, the more more than the content, I think the presentation part in geography becomes important. Because if you're showing El Nino and if you're making a nice world map and showing those oscillations, it looks very nice and appealing to the examiner. So for geography, don't take too much of burden. Follow the basic books, G.C. Leong, NCERTs, and other than this, practice more and more test papers. Now, coming to the second part of your question, how to study governance in GS2. For this, I think Lakshmikant is the basic book for polity. That is non-negotiable. You have to study it. NCERT you can still skip because Lakshmikant covers mostly everything. But when we talk about the governance aspect, mostly we're talking about the latest schemes of the government. So Vision HIS or Insights, they have an entire compilation. They have entire folders made of these government schemes. I think there are a lot of government schemes, more than 200 to 300 schemes. So what I used to do was, every day, I used to revise one ministry. So for example, Ministry of Coal. So I will revise one particular ministry every day. And the process got repeated throughout the year. So next day would be Education Ministry. Next day would be some other ministry. And I used to revise them. Hardly 10 minutes I used to give to this. By the end of the year, when my prelims came, I could actually figure out that, okay, this scheme belongs to this ministry and the funding pattern is this. just because I used to revise one ministry every day, and the process went on and on. So by the end of the year, when my prelims actually came, I had actually revised the document twice or thrice. So I think this is the best way to revise these government schemes instead of doing it all at once. So you take one ministry every day and revise its programs and schemes. So that will help you in your mains answer writing as well.
And my last question is, ma'am, how was your experience of meeting with the External Affairs Minister of India?
I think this was a very new experience because, as you know, foreign service officer trainees, to get this opportunity to meet EAM right in the beginning of our careers, it was a great opportunity. It was very warm and very cordial, and it was a motivational boost for all of us. But I think the kind of training that we have to go through for the next 6-7 months, that is still to be seen. But initially, the opportunity that we got, it was a great experience, I must say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and wishing you a wonderful career ahead.
Thank you so much, Nikhil, and all the very best to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dee.
So thank you so much with the entire team of Kartavya.
Thank you so much, Dee. It was so nice to have you. Thank you for giving us your valuable time and guiding us throughout. I am very sure that this will help us in our preparation, and freshers will be joining soon. So I'm very much sure that they would get benefit immensely by having a look at this session. So thank you so much. By this, we come to an end of this session.